Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back. So today we are going to do a main review on the Estes Dart micro quadcopter. This thing's pretty small. Fits in the palm of my hand. Really nice. Like compared to my UDI, which kind of goes over my hand, this thing is actually really small. Now, I'm gonna get into good points and bad points, as y'all know, and so it's gonna be a few minutes for this video, but I wanted to do, as always, give you guys thorough information. Now, the manual that comes with this is very, very layman's terms, which is great. I really appreciate how they laid out the manual in this. Now, when you buy this thing, of course, you're gonna get a manual. You're gonna get this little yellow sheet that tells you about your trims. You're going to get your radio, your battery, your charger, 4 blades for replacements, and of course your main unit. And they get into battery precautions, charging and usage, etc., the whole nine. So it's very simple laid out manual. Tells you how to install the batteries properly and so on. Safety checks, care and maintenance, the list goes on. Charging sources, you can hook it into your desktop computer or your laptop, or if you have a full-size USB port on a tablet, you can charge it from there. I actually have my cell phone charger and I just plug it in there, and it actually charges a little quicker because charging time is it can take up to 60 minutes. I'm using my cell phone charger, so I get it between 30 to 40 minutes depending on how badly I deplete the battery. Otherwise, the flight time is a good 10 minutes anyway, so it's got some decent flight time to it, I find. At least that's the time I'm getting out of it. Now, it does have beginner and expert mode. In expert mode is where you can do aerial flips, not in beginner mode apparently. Oh well. It is a little confusing on how to not just get into the expert mode, but to do the flips, because it is a very basic radio. There's no extra buttons like you would find on a UDI or higher end quadcopter. So you've got this clicker switch that's actually on your right side joystick, and they tell you about beginner, expert mode, how to do the flip with using that switch and so on. So for kids actually first time playing with this, then we're going to want to stay out of expert mode for a while. Keep them in beginner mode, let them learn how to fly it and orientate. Flying quadcopters is a little different actually than flying a helicopter. And so it's a little different on, you know, orientation and how things happen. So something a little different to get used to. Now, it is a 4-channel system, so you've got forward and reverse, you've got bank and maneuver, which is left and right, and then of course on your throttle side, you've got a left and right control as well within your throttle that takes care of your pirouetting, okay? So that's how that works. They have some basic troubleshooting in here if you do run into some problems. They also tell you how to bind it. Now, their method of binding isn't working for me on my unit. It may work on your unit and maybe 10,000 other units, but for me, to get this thing to bind properly, I have to plug it in very quickly. I'll actually show you. So I kind of line things up just like this on the table. Plug it in, hit the switch quick. Boom, it's bound. That's how I have to do mine. Otherwise, I may get one motor or 2 motors that doesn't even want to run. It's kind of retarded. And if you're not quick enough on it, well, then you got to do it again. But you definitely do have to plug the quad in first and then the remote, which is actually a little reverse, because a lot of times I just turn my remote on first, then plug my quad in, depending on the quad, right? Well, that's the way this one seems to want to operate, so I'm not going to argue with it, and I'm fine. Now, let's get into good points and bad points. Good points is it's actually really cool and tiny. It is very suitable for indoor flying in pretty much any space. I can fly it in the room that I'm in right now, and because it is a very small machine, I can get away with it on beginner mode. Advanced mode, I need my living room, okay? Much bigger area. It can fly outdoors. I would definitely suggest very low wind situations, not high wind. And it does have quite the range to it. They don't exactly tell you in here the exact range in the book. Not that I've read yet anyways, maybe I missed that part, but it is 2.4 gigahertz, so I don't see any issues with it being able to fly like, 100 feet away, but I guess we'll test that out in the springtime. Now, first time I've seen this from Estes. They have replacement body set, blades, battery, charger unit, and screws. Because there's some screws here. There's 3 main ones that hold the body shell together, and then of course there's screws underneath that hold the PCB board in. And so you can get a screw set, but you can't, it doesn't seem like it has spare motors, and from what I'm seeing there's no motors in this body, so nope, no spare motors, and that's going to suck. No spare main board if it goes down, no spare radio if it goes down. So the very basic of basics of parts, which is fine though, because this is actually an outdated model, if you call it. Now, new to Estes maybe, but outdated in the other sense that Hubsan actually makes this same machine. And I seen it with them way before Estes had it. And Hubsan's made an upgrade to this micro version where they've added LED bulbs into their cage. But of course you also need the main board that's going to support those LEDs. So if you do bust your cage for some reason, order your cage from Estes, but then you can order all the rest of your parts from the Hubsan H107. And it's actually the H107L, which is the upgraded version of this one. And so you can use the same blades, same motors, etc. And the parts are really super dirt cheap. Batteries are like, a couple of dollars, like under $4 Canadian. Motors are really super cheap too. Spare charger, really cheap, etc. Okay, and they do have an upgraded battery that will give you longer flight times. Anyway, it is a lot of fun. It's very stable in beginner mode. I haven't tried the advanced mode yet myself. I actually finally read the book to figure out how to get into the advanced mode. So I'm going to try that and see how that works out. But that's also, of course, where you do your stunts, is in advanced mode. But beginner mode, it's actually a little bit quicker movements than my UDI 816, which is actually a slightly larger scale than this one here. Anyway, so being that Estes has very little for this, I'm gonna be a little harsh on my overall rating, but I'm gonna get into a few other things first. The radio does feel nice in the hand. The control sticks are nice. I like to use them with the thumbs, because to try and use them this way like some guys do, it's like it's not meant to be held that way. So doing it this way, you get some really good control. It's very nice. The digital trims are nice, I'm really liking those. They work very, very well. But like I said, you got this inner button here on the right stick that you got to do to get into your stunts and your expert mode flying, which actually increases your cyclics. So if you go forward right now, let's say you're on a dip angle about like this, well now you're on a dip angle like that, so it's much more severe. So very, very quick moving when you're in the expert mode. Okay, so little downs. I have the pain problem with the binding. It won't bind the way their book says, but that's not going to happen to everybody. It's just, that's the way it's happening with mine. When I crash, I pop 1 to 2 blades off, average, but they pop right back on, no big deal. I never have lost a blade yet while flying, so that's good. Haven't had to use any of my spares yet either. Of course, this thing's only seen the indoors. These things sell for about $50–60, depending on where you get them. Like, you can buy this at the source, you can buy it at Amazon, for the Estes version, and a few other places online I've seen them. And they average between $50 and $60, sometimes a little bit more, depending on the website. They're a little overpriced, I think. The upgraded version of this in the Hubsan, which has the LEDs on the cage, is actually only about $45 out of China at Banggood, and free shipping. So that's a little bit more reasonable, and I can like that price a little bit better. What I don't like the most is getting into this stupid expert mode thing. That I don't like. Okay, so I'm going to be a little harsh on that. That's retarded. They should have just put, you know, one button for your stunts, one button for your, you know, beginner to advanced mode, that would have been better, whether it was the Estes or the Hubsan version of this size category. And they do have bigger versions, by the way, of the Hubsan since then. And they're pretty cool. Actually, they have an FPV version out now too. Instructions, very good. Did a great job. Yellow paper to tell you, you know, about stopping drift. I guess it's kind of helpful, you know, but they tell you that in the book anyhow, so I don't know why they give you a second piece of paper for that. Let's pretend that you can't get parts other than what Estes is giving you here, which is really not much. We're talking a 2 out of 5. Lack of parts and royal pain in the neck to get between expert and back to beginner mode, as well as your stunt mode. Okay, that really is an annoyance. Very much, especially for the lack of parts access, because you can burn a motor. These are coreless engines. Okay, they're not brushless, they're coreless, but they will still burn out eventually. Okay, anything electronic can and does eventually burn out. But at least coreless motors, they don't use a lot of energy, but they do supply a lot of friggin' speed and torque, so that's cool. They're not that difficult to replace if you know what you're doing with a soldering iron, and that's the big thing. If you're going to play around with this sort of stuff, it's not like we have a ton of repair shops everywhere that knows how to work on these things. So you might want to carry out those repairs yourself or find somebody that can do it for you. Now, as far as motors go, of course, the Hubsan, even the upgraded version to the Micro, in the same size still, you can use those motors, or you can use the motors out of the UDI 816. They're the exact same motor. Okay, I haven't tried using the blades from the UDI 816, but I'm thinking I might try them just to see if they work. They are a little bit narrower paddle, actually, than these big canoe paddles, but not by a whole lot. So they might actually work even better and maybe even increase some flight time just because they'll give more lift sooner. So that might be a benefit. We're going to try that and we'll let you know on an update anyways. The charging cable is actually kind of cool. I'm just going to show you a few things here because I don't get into this really much in the manual. Plugging in your battery to the charger unit is very, very simple and easy. Unplugging, you want to hold the back of your wires and the connector. Pinch the connector, okay, and then hold this end of the connector from your charger cable and then just pull out. When you're plugging in your quad, it only goes in one way. Plug it in, pinch the ends, unplug. It's going to be stiff. Now, a little kid might not be able to handle doing this without busting something, so the parent might want to help out in that area. The battery stays in here like really super well, so I'm very impressed with that. It actually has a set of burlocks that come up, but you can actually bend this up carefully and pull your battery out. And you really don't need to pull your battery out. You can charge it while it's actually in the quad. So I would leave it in there anyways, because in this way it saves you wearing this area out and maybe breaking your cage down the road. Besides, you should get hundreds of charges off this thing. Big thing is when you're done flying, let it cool for 10 minutes, then charge it. When it's done charging, 5 to 10 minutes, let that cool down from the charging process. You'll get the bestest and longest flight times and the most cycles out of your LiPo battery by doing that. Now, being that we can get parts, because of this being actually a Hubsan, in reality, and we can get all the parts and then some, I would then recategorize this particular Estes Dart version, aka Hubsan H107 clone, into now a 3 3/4 out of 5, because I'm still a little crabby about the remote itself. I can live with the odd time the blade pops when I crash. That's okay. I can live with the fact that mine doesn't bind exactly the way they say to do it, but I'm pretty close. You know, so, okay, so that's where I'm going to stick this one. There is nothing to me more annoying than having to remember, oh, I got to do this, and then I can do this, or I can do this, or I can do this, or I got to go, you know, maybe click here and then go do this. That's stupid, you know. Now Hubsan did the same thing on their micro version. Okay, they improved things in bigger models, but in this size, you know, the remote is the same remote as the Hubsan model, even the H107L, which is their upgraded micro, and it has a cool digital display, which I actually like. With or without the digital display is not a big issue for me, but you know, Hubsan did do it much cooler in that aspect for the radio. But they still have the same thing with the button system here from what I can see. I can't swear to it until I buy one, but from what I can see and what I've seen online with pictures of the radio and everything else, it seems to be exactly the same, so they've done the same thing in the micro size. It's still a little annoying, but at least they do give you some instructions. If you read them a couple times and try it out, you'll figure it out, and then once you learn it, I mean, it's second nature like anything else, but for now, that's a bit of a real downside to me. You know, and the downside of, you know, Estes says, oh, well, we can give you these parts, but we can't give you motors, we can't give you PCB. If you kill your radios, well, damn, we don't have spare radios, you know, or they would have listed the extras, perhaps. You would have to call them and find out, to be honest. But this is the first time I've actually seen Estes, and I've had quite a few Estes products, where they actually give you access to some replacement parts from their company. So I'm like, interesting. So we'll see how well that pans out in the future. Maybe. So that's it for now. Any questions, any comments, feel free to leave them. If you've got one of these things and you're having problems, feel free to ask. I'll do the best I can to help you out. You know, and even if you have one of these things and you've blown a motor and you don't have anybody that can do it for you, you could send it to me and I can help you out with that and I can fix that for you. You know, I only charge like, you know, $10 labor plus parts, so it's not going to cost you a major bucks, and of course your return shipping. But at least I can service these things without any difficulty too. That's about it. So thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.